How is it determined what maps get remakes and what maps don't? Who decides which maps get brought back? Throughout the years of Call of Duty, there have been a lot of really great maps that for one reason or another, they never got the love. They never got the shine that other maps got. What's up, everybody? Jimmy or Chaos. Today on the COD History series, we're going to be talking about what I think are 10 of the most underrated maps in the entire span of Call of Duty history. These maps, they were great. But for whatever reason, they never got talked about anymore. They just got kind of left in the past. So you let me know in the comments what you think the most underrated map in COD history is. Drop a like and do me a favor, guys, really quick. The link at the top of the description, right click on it so you open another window, unless you're on a phone, not sure how you're going to do that, and go subscribe to the Chaos Cinema channel. We are covering everything leaks, rumors, and news on TV shows and movies. So we now have Chaos for Call of Duty, Chaos Gaming for all your leaks, rumors, and news on latest gaming news that's coming up, and now we have Chaos Cinema. Now, at number 10, we have Bootleg in Modern Warfare 3, the original Modern Warfare 3. This map was pretty popular back in 2011, but ever since then, everybody forgot. It was a rainy map in the original Modern Warfare 3. It took place in an Asian market. Now, it had some interesting choke points that could get insane in modes like Domination and Demolition. You guys remember Demolition? You could run around the main street, hopefully not get sniped. You could run into the main structure in the middle of the map, fight for control of the stairs. You could run through the alleyways, hope not to get shotgunned, and you could run around the backside of the main building and try not to get hit in the face with a C4. The options were endless. Bootleg was one of the most popular maps in the game, but it actually never got a remake despite its popularity, and it seems like nobody talks about it, which is weird because I was always under the impression people loved it. Good way to start today's list. Before we move on, guys, we're giving away a PS5 at 2.8 million subscribers. The pinned comment below gives you all the details. Multiple ways to enter, and they are all free. At number 9, Countdown in Call of Duty 4. Now, the COD 4 community always seemed to be a bit negative towards this map, and I don't think that's fair because it was exciting. It was a unique map for Call of Duty's gameplay loop. Took place at a big launching pad with a lot of open silos in the ground, concrete barriers for cover, as well as some open hangars for you to hunker down in. You could run up in the open silo doors, for some height advantage, or you could weave in and out of the various cover pieces to get enemies, get up on them, to be honest with you. It was honestly a ton of fun. There really wasn't any other map in the game that played exactly like it. Plus, when this map was remade in Modern Warfare Remastered, Raven Software added new game modes like Hardpoint to the mix. It honestly played well. I've never understood why the community was generally so negative about this map because I had a blast here. It was frustrating if you were constantly getting shot while running up the silo doors, but isn't that just a sign to change up your strategy, do something a little different? I'd love to see it come back. I feel like this map would go really, really hard with Omni movement. At number 8, Prison Break and Ghost. This map just never gets talked about anymore because nobody likes to talk about COD Ghost, but I will. If you look back at the maps in the game, Prison Break was honestly pretty good, assuming you were playing the right game mode. Standard multiplayer, a little rough around the edges for sure. But if you were playing Infected, it was arguably the best map in the game. There were so many great hiding spots for the survivors to abuse, and if you managed to work with your fellow survivors to hunker down in the main building, it got crazy. I think if Ghost was a 10v10 game by default, Prison Break would have been a fan favorite map. It was definitely flawed in 6v6, I get that. But it was top tier in the party modes like Infected, and it definitely earns a spot on today's list. And I have to ask you, did you ever see Bigfoot on Prison Break? At number 7, Radiation in Black Ops. Now, Black Ops had some absolutely iconic maps. Firing Range, Summit, Nuketown, Jungle. But then there were other maps that were widely forgotten, one of them being Radiation, which I always thought was a super underrated map for Domination and S&D. Medium-sized map, pretty open visibility on the exterior sections, and you had some really sneaky flanking routes if you went inside the main structure. It was a little risky. It was pretty dark in there, but you could hide in the shadows, take enemy players by surprise. There was also quite a bit of height advantage here that helped shake things up and keep the matches interesting. If you were a good shot at mid and long range, you could go for some cheesy streaks here if you locked down the windows in the main structure. Or you could also get cheesy and go underground, opening and closing the silo doors above you to make capturing the B flag and Dom harder or easier, depending on who hit the button. It was a great map, but it never really caught on with the community the way the other Black Ops 1 launch maps did, and I'm not sure why because I absolutely love this map. At number 6, Erosion in the original Modern Warfare 3. Now, if you played the Face-Off playlist back in MW3, you probably remember Erosion, and you probably liked it just like I did. But if you didn't spend much time in the Face-Off playlist, you probably never even got to try it, and to me, that is a freaking shame because it was awesome. It was built in a small team showdown mindset, set in a bunch of Roman ruins. You would run around the rocky terrain, busted up structures, taking pot shots at enemy players. I mean, there was really, really tight sight lines. It was an asymmetrical map, which made it really good for search and destroy, since the attacking and defending teams had very different experiences when the round started, although there was almost always somebody running Recon Pro just throwing flashbangs across the map off spawn. It was a fantastic map for objective game modes. If you played in the 2v2 or 3v3 playlist, you probably spent a lot of time here. With how popular the gunfight game mode is now, I think Erosion should be remade. It would fit in perfectly. Now we arrive at the top 5. Sovereign in Ghosts. I think this was one of the better maps for standard 6v6 multiplayer in Ghost, and even though it was huge, it could make for some pretty tense moments, especially in S&D. Took place in a tank factory. You run around the massive corridors, the metallic interiors. You'd also duck through tight alleyways, office rooms, get the jump on the enemy players. Basically, the combat here was really close range or really long range, which that kind of made the flow interesting. Added some stakes to all your movements. You had to be smart about where you were positioning yourself, and that made for some great one and done game modes, to be honest with you. I always thought it was one of the easiest maps to see enemy players, since it was all indoors with metallic interior, so enemy players couldn't really hide in plain sight like they could on other maps. May not have been great for some of the more popular game modes like TDM or Free For All, but I do have some good memories here playing S&D. I always thought the map was a little bit slept on. At number 4, most of you probably never played this map. Salvage in Modern Warfare 2, 2009. I mean, it was a paid DLC map in 2009. But if you did get to play it, you're probably getting hit with the nostalgia hammer right over the face watching this gameplay. Salvage was a snowy map set in the Russian junkyard, absolutely jam-packed with Easter eggs, which was a bonus for me. If you ran around the map and you looked closely, you could find a hidden teddy bear. You could find Makarov's secret war plans. You could even find an inflatable doll that was presumably being used for whatever reasons. Super fun map. Had a really unique flow to it, as well as some really unique vibes because of that snowy overlay and the winter outfits that your characters would be wearing. There's also just something cool about fighting in a snowy junkyard. Most of the Golden Age DLC maps are never going to be remade, but I am holding out hope that somebody on the COD development team remembers Salvage exists and brings it back. At number 3, Meltdown in Black Ops 2. Now, much like Black Ops 1, BO2 had some of the most iconic maps in COD history at launch, and that led to quite a few of the launch maps being completely forgotten despite being fun. Meltdown was one of the best sniping maps in the game. Took place at a nuclear power plant in Pakistan. 2 outside lanes, mostly close, mid-range. If you dared to walk into the middle lane, you would almost definitely be getting sniped by somebody holding the area down with a DSR or a ballista. The middle lane had 2 buildings, second-story windows. Get super intense because the snipers holding the area down would be there, but there was also the possibility that a flanker would get through the door, punish them for staying in one place for too long, and that's why you ran shock charges on your sniper class. I always thought Meltdown was fun. Had a really unique feel to it. Since it was going up against all-time greats, though, like Raid, Standoff, Hijacked, and many more, there was no way it was going to stand the test of time. It was eventually brought back in COD Mobile, but I still think it's underrated. At number 2, Ambush in COD 4. Taken straight out of the COD 4 single-player campaign, and that usually doesn't end very well, but this is one of those rare cases where a campaign level actually makes for a great multiplayer map. Ambush takes place in the middle of a giant firefight in a desert town, has you running around various buildings, alleyways, use broken down cars and tanks for cover. Airstrikes here are devastating because of the lack of overhead cover, and there were some insane sniper battles that would take place in the middle of the map from one side of the street to the other. There was also a mountain machine gun turret in the southeast corner of the map that I always thought was kind of funny because it's placed in a location where you weren't going to kill anyone with it, but it still made you feel like a boss if you got on it and started spraying and praying. Plus, there was a hidden teddy bear if you knew where to look. Compared to other COD 4 maps like Shipment, Vacant, Showdown, Backlot, Crash, it was underwhelming, and there were some people who didn't like how big it was for 6v6, but I thought it was a pretty immersive map. I thought it fit the vibe of COD 4 perfectly. Plus, it was a ton of fun in modes like Dom and the addition of Hardpoint and NWR. And at number 1, the most underrated map has to be Warhawk in Ghosts. This is one of the few maps in COD Ghosts that I think everybody will agree was good, but even still, hardly anyone talks about it or even thinks about it. It takes place in an evacuated town, and the layout reminded me of Standoff from Black Ops 2. Featured a lot of flanking routes through the alleyways, sniper battles in the second stories of the buildings, and a very fast pace because of how many options you had at your disposal for getting one power position to another. Warhawk was actually remade in Infinite Warfare's Heartland, but nobody remembers that because nobody was playing the DLC in Infinite Warfare. So if we're talking about underrated COD maps, It deserves the #1 spot because this is the map that everyone in the Ghost community agreed was good, yet nobody talks about it anymore because it was in COD Ghost. That's not fair, I don't think. I mean, if you ask me, this is the most underrated map in COD history. I'm really hoping that the good maps from COD Ghost start getting some love in the community because even though there was some really crappy maps in the game, there was a small handful of good ones as well. They deserve some love. Let me know one underrated map that deserves love that I didn't give any love to. Make sure you get in on that PS5 giveaway. It's the pinned comment below, and I'll see you guys soon.